Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Gonna See My Friends, the podcast where Stephen and I and assorted fellows will join us from time to time, and we'll talk about movies that we love and occasional other topics, but primarily old movies that we love. We go back and reminisce about their impact that they had at the time, how they might stand up to this day, if they are rewatchable, what have you, how if they are more poignant today than they were at the time. My name's Toby Ballinger, the host of the show, the main man, Stephen Garcia. Mr. Stegar is, of course, here. He let me take the lead because we're going to hack the planet today, Stephen.
Co-host. I'm the co-host. You are the man.
Thank you.
You suggest. How can I be the man when you're the man?
There it is.
You suggested this movie, Hackers. This is a great. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited.
I think you like it more than me.
Yeah,
but I do have the merch, and I bought it primarily just for those watching on the tube. And it does have a cute kitty with a rose, and it does say "Hack the Planet" up here. But I do rock this shirt around the house. It's super comfortable. I don't know where I got it, but I was wearing it for a pod last season. And Steven goes, "Why aren't we doing Hackers? The 1995 hour and 45-minute Ian Softley classic, Hackers." That answer is coming for you today. So I'm really glad that everybody's here. Steven, did you see this in the theater?
No, I didn't. I saw it in home video is when I really began to watch this on a regular basis. I mean, I think what it is I'm going to start off with this, and this is a movie that is shot cheaply, looks cheap. The performances are kind of over the top and exaggerated a bit. The music is really that really early Prodigy era before pre-Matrix. And I still love the movie. I mean, it's one of those guilty pleasures where for me it's kind of a comfort. Like we say a lot about the movies that we watch on this program here. It's a comfort movie for me, much like Mystery Alaska, which you didn't appreciate either. But the other, I'm just being real. But it's one of those movies that I can watch anytime and just be entertained by it. It's the most entertaining, funny movie that is trying not to be funny, and it's a joy. It's a blast, as the kids say. So that's my little take on it. Great movie. Early performances from like Jonny Lee Miller. Let's see, who do we got here? Jonny Lee Miller, Jolie, Angelina Jolie, Jesse Bradford, Matthew Lillard, Fisher Stevens, Wendell Pierce, Lorraine, Bracco, Penn Jillette. I mean, this is a really small independent movie, but it has kind of the firepower. Now, a lot of these people weren't stars at the time; they were just starting out on their careers. So,
that's right.
So, when did you first see it, Tobe?
It would have been not in the theater, but sometime before 2000. I remember it being on HBO a lot.
Yeah.
You could turn on HBO at midnight on a Saturday coming home from wherever and click the TV on and Hackers was on. So saw it numerous times, probably one of those where I saw the second half of it more times than the intro. I like the cold open where we see the it tells us that it's 1988 in Seattle. I don't know that I had seen that opening scene very many times, maybe a handful but I've seen like the last hour and 15 of it 100 times. You know what I mean? Like, this is where you learn to hate Fisher Stevens. He's so good as this character. My God. I mean,
so over the top, man. I love it, man.
It's exactly right. I think this is the first time that I have a recognition of Angelina Jolie, of who is that kind of first impressions. She is really kind of the strength, the strength behind this movie. Jonny Lee Miller to a lesser extent, I think most people would know Jonny Lee Miller as Sick Boy from Trainspotting. That's what I know him best.
Which comes out a year after. Yeah.
Right. And he's right. And then we don't see as much of Jonny Lee Miller as we were kind of promised at that point. He does these two incredible independent movies, like you say. Trainspotting takes the world by storm. Yeah. But I think he played that character so well that it's just, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he did it to himself by playing that role so well that that might have been kind of like a turnoff for a lot of movie houses or production companies. But yeah, putting Penn Jillette as Hal as the IT guy that's like Fisher Stevens' right hand man is a choice. But yeah, it all seems to really come together. And Wendell Pierce, of course. Incredible as Agent Dick Gill. Yeah. He's probably best known from The Wire, and he's great in this. So
go ahead.
It did not do well in the box office. You said it was a low budget, $20 million. It brought in $7.5 million. So big oof there. But you're right as far as the music. We have a lot of. I think there's 6 or 7 montage scenes where it's just that rave house. Here, I mean, this is them. Like, I don't know if they, like. I felt like I was like rewiring and hacking things as this went on. I'm like, here we go, another. You forget how many there are, and you're like, once you start picking up on it, I was like really watching the movie to talk about it for an hour today, and I was like, there was a couple of times where I just sat back and laughed and all. This is wild. Like somebody who wrote a movie about hacking who knew nothing about hacking. Like,
that's pretty much it. Yeah,
I don't know that anybody. I mean, the internet. It's 1995. They're filming it probably 94. So the internet is like 5 days old at this point, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think 95 was the first time I ever got an email address. Yeah. And it was one where you had to go to the college campus and in the computer lab, and there was a room with 100 computers. And if you went in there, all you were going in there to do was to check your new email, which 4 people had your email address. But you would have to wait for one of these computers to open up. A sea of computers, and you'd just be standing there with your backpack on, just waiting. It was like musical chairs. Well, do you remember this? This was so Gen X stuff, dude, that we're talking about right here. Like, we had to wait for somebody to pop up, and you had to race somebody around one side of the room. This guy's going around this side of the room. Can you get to that computer to log in for maybe 10 minutes? You'd check your computer. It was like dial up, maybe those T1 lines at the time, where you'd type in all your information and your password, and you'd have to wait a couple seconds, and then your email screen would pop up. It would be 2 ads. And then the person that you were hoping had emailed you back. Maybe that girl who was at a different college campus far, far away.
Was it the Netscape Navigator that you were using?
It was Netscape Navigator. Remember?
Where you could actually hear the... Yeah. You could actually hear it, like, the gears.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, man.
Yeah, so I think this movie is kind of like... You know, there's certain times in a decade, I guess, or certain times where there's a kind of a pop culture kind of explosion of something. And there's always a movie, like in the 80s, like we had breakdancing movies, and in the 90s, like the internets or the computers. We had computers then, and a cool tie-in, which is, you know, we did War Games, 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
And or last week, I don't know what, but we did War Games just recently, and that's based in Seattle. So we got these hackers coming out of Seattle. That's a good point. I don't know what's up with Seattle, but anyways, like I feel like this is kind of a movie that kind of jumps on the screenplay, which was written by Raphael Moreau, and he writes this, and he writes this about the hackers of the early '80s, and by '89, '90. The hacking scene kind of got out of control, so the government kind of puts a clamp down on it. So it becomes a kind of a subculture thing, or kind of a subterranean type of lifestyle, where it's not necessarily something that you want to champion, you know, like I'm a hacker. But so it seems like this is the movie for this era, because, you know, kind of like, this is 10 years after Weird Science, but yet it still has the same kind of graphics or same kind of feel as Weird Science when they're on the computer hacking away, So,
yeah,
there's always going to be a movie and this happened to be that movie. And, I don't know. I mean, I can get into the cast here, which you kind of touched on. And it's kind of weird because when I watch this movie, like everybody, it's not carried by just one person. It's not carried by Jonny Lee Miller or Angelina Jolie. All the performances in this movie, like, are their own, even if they're kind of not really, the best acting or the best choices that these actors make in terms of like line readings. But I think that this is kind of a heavyweight type of movie because it just every scene is kind of, I don't know. It's just it carries some weight, and in this type of movie, even if with Train Spotting, there's maybe a scene or two where I kind of take the scene off, In this one, I really don't have one of those scenes. I mean, it could be maybe the way, like, I don't know, the way that what's his name, Eugene Belford, which is the Plague. I think a couple scenes with him, but he's always great. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Is there any scenes in this that you kind of like check out of, or?
Well, no, not really. I was at one point I had to keep rewinding it because, it for those, I don't know why, but it's on YouTube for free to watch now, which was really nice. Mm-hmm. I don't know if is it in the public domain?
No, it's just that I think the license to show it, I think kind of comes and goes because it'll disappear from YouTube.
Okay.
And it won't be free and you'll have to pay for it. And then every like 3, 4, 5 months or something, it'll come back for like 6 months and then it'll be gone for like 3 or
Is that
4.
what it is? Okay. Because it was saying that it was available for free on Tubi. I don't know who has Tubi, but then, it's at Amazon. You could rent it or buy it.
Yeah.
But then to just go onto YouTube and say, play movie. I was like, and maybe it's I have premium, and I don't know if that freed it up for me. It might be the reason why. But that was really nice because I don't own it. I own the shirt, but I don't own the movie. But you said you had it already downloaded. It was in your playlist already.
Yeah, it's. I have a playlist because there's a free movie section on YouTube. So you go and there's some good movies on there for free. So what I did was I made a playlist. And then I added all these movies. And that's when I know that movies come and go is that, so like Singles is on there. I don't know if it's still on there.
Oh my God, is it really?
Yeah, Singles is on there for free. So it's like, but on the playlist, when it leaves, there's a little, like private, it's made private. So then like, it's a blank spot there, but then it'll come back. So, so what I do is I make this playlist and then, the movies in the playlist, some just stay forever. Some are just there all the time. But then the others, like this movie, kind of come and go. And so
okay. Well, let's do this.
Okay.
As we get cooking here, you mentioned that the music is Simon Boswell and Guy Pratt. Now you mentioned Prodigy. Are either of these gentlemen in Prodigy?
I have. Let's see. I don't think so. I don't
think I've ever seen Prodigy. I saw the Chemical Brothers in London, and this kind of reminded me a little Chemical Brothers-y.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Prodigy. That was actually way more spot on. But I was definitely feeling the rave culture in this one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I looked up the actual soundtrack. Well, they came out with after the movie in the 2000s, in the early aughts. They came out with volumes. So the first one was just basically what was in the movie, and then as the popularity grew in home media, like they released more kind of songs that were inspired, But yeah, Prodigy, the Prodigy is on here. Massive Attack, Orbital. Let's see, Left Field. Just people. I don't really know, but you have the stereo MCs connected.
Yes,
that's the theme of the 90s. I mean, I think a 90s movie that doesn't have that on there is not it's not qualified for a hit or something because I even saw stereo MCs on WOMAD. Remember that concert WOMAD?
Yes.
In like the early 90s when Peter Gabriel put it on?
That's right.
They came to they came to Golden Gate Park, and me and my roommate at the time went without tickets, and we snuck in. And then we snuck in backstage, which we were kind of like, oh shit, we just have to like, and we saw Peter Gabriel walking up the ramp onto the stage, and it was like, nice. Whoa. And then, but right before Peter Gabriel was Stereo MCs. And so it was, that song kind of brings me back. It's kind of like the soundtrack for, what is it? The Saint has the same kind of feel as this.
Yeah, that's true.
And even, and then even like, this is like pre-Matrix. So I think the Matrix kind of, I think, as we always say on this, I think this soundtrack or this movie walked so the Matrix could run. Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think you have early signs of the Matrix, because the Matrix is only a few years away at this point.
Yeah, right.
But what I think, and the scene that comes to my mind is pretty early on. It's the one where we first meet Penn Jillette and Fisher Stevens, and he skateboards in, right? Penn Jillette wakes him up, and he's in some computer, like this is the computer room.
I guess.
Of a shipping company, of an oil shipping company. And the room that he's in, where the computer IT guys, this is the IT room for all intents and purposes, looks like they're in Tron. And at this point, I'm like, are they inside the hard drive of this computer? What is this room? It's so over the top that I'm like, okay, so you got, they saw War Games. They said, that command center was an incredible set. We're not going to spend $1 million to build that set. But what we will do is we'll have a green screen, or in 95, I think they were blue screens. And you guys sit in this room, and we're just going to broadcast on the back. And it'll make sense at the time. I mean, now every movie does this. But at the time, and so what they project on the back is they're inside the Matrix in this. And they're supposed to be just stopping the hackers from hacking. And they're, oh, I got you now. And it's just this whole cat and mouse game that is so over the top that is like, if you listen, I know more merchant marines than I know hackers. So as far as, they're trying to hack the merchant marine ships. We don't know enough about the hacking in 1995 to know that this isn't what's really going on out there.
Right,
we just accepted it. And now in hindsight, I'm like, oh boy, these guys are really they have delusions of grandeur. I've seen the IT department. It looks nothing like this. There's a pile of garbage in the corner. Yeah. Nobody's cleaned. The microwave's dirty. I mean, this is not this room.
The Eugene Belford, which is Fisher Stevens, when he gets called by Penn Jillette, he's Mr. Belford, we have a I told you call me the Plague.
The Plague.
Oh, sorry, Mr. the Plague.
Mr. the Plague. Penn's great. Penn's really great in this. I don't know why he's in this movie, but it's Penn Jillette. This is like pre-weight loss Penn Jillette. So he is like 4 bills in this. He's a big guy.
Tall.
And he looks like he kind of looks like a computer nerd. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's playing the security guard IT guys. And you can tell they're security guards because they have the security guard uniform. It's just so silly, but it's just it's
ridiculous.
Nice touch.
It is ridiculous. And so let's see. Let's just really quickly. Here's the storyline is a young boy is arrested by the U.S. Secret Service for writing a computer virus and is banned from using a computer until his 18th birthday. Nor can he use a touch-tone telephone.
Yeah.
Years later, he and his newfound friends discover a plot to unleash a dangerous computer virus, but they must use their computer skills to find the evidence while being pursued by the Secret Service and the evil computer genius behind the virus. And you're off in an hour and 45 minutes. And let me tell you this, what friends whomst I'm going to see. This is the new leader in the clubhouse for the Peter Griffin, ooh, he said it. So make sure you have a full beverage. If you play the game along with us, where they say the name of the movie in the movie, make sure you have a full one because it's said quite a bit, as I'm sure you can imagine.
9 times?
It's something like 9 times, I think I counted. We won't get all of them likely, but let's just get into it. That opening scene, I think we talked about. He's sentenced. Seattle, they bust through the windows and doors and they arrest the kid who is Dade. and he is
Dade Murphy.
They take down
what
some
a name.
1700. Yeah, Dade Murphy. It's actually a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
The family is fined $45,000. They took down Wall Street, and his virus that he was hacking in 1988 took down some ungodly number. And so he's a legend.
1,507 computer systems, causing a 7-point drop in the New York Stock Exchange.
So it's a big deal. At the time, a 7-point drop in the New York Stock Exchange isn't a whole lot now when it's in the 40s, but back then when it was 4,000, 3,500, that's a big deal. So they're fined $45,000. They can't own a computer, and he can't own or use a touch-tone telephone until his 18th birthday. Yeah. So again, we go back to this touch-tone telephone. We talked about it in War Games.
Yeah.
That episode yet to come out, but he uses the touch-tone. We talked about it in that where the computer just needs the tone, doesn't need you to actually push the button. The button makes the tone happen. The computer doesn't care if you're pushing the button or not. It's just listening for the tone. So you can use these tones to kind hack,
of communicate.
Free phone calls, what have you, right? That's what he did in War Games. That was 1983. All he was doing was using tones to get the computer to respond. It's binary system, just on or off. You might on or off.
Well, the writer Raphael hung out with hackers, and he went to the convention, and he saw these, which they do in this phone movie too. They learn how to hack, the public telephones, and he just saw a hacker do that, and he saw a hacker do some other things with a computer, and just said, "I had to write this movie." So that was a little trivia. Yeah.
He hasn't written a whole lot. The other thing that I saw that he had written that his first credit. This was his first writing credit. This Raphael Moreau.
Okay.
He wrote The Rage Carrie 2. So those who watched the sequel to Carrie, there you have it. The Rage Carrie 2 is the only other thing that I saw that he didn't write a whole lot, but hey, he got this made, and here we are talking about 31 years later. So he lives forever. Your thoughts on so he turns 18.
Yeah.
He's immediately starting to hack again in his room. And his mom is like, don't stay up all night on the computer, all this. He comes out. She tells him, I took this job. They move away from Seattle and they move to New York City. Mm-hmm. And so now he goes to New York City where now he's meeting all the riffraff, his new group of friends, as the synopsis had said. And this group looks like when Biff came back to the future and Back to the Future 2 and all the youths were dressed all super funky. This is what the youth of New York City 1995 hacking community looks like. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay. This is the world they live in. It's so dystopian. I love it. And Matthew Lillard couldn't have been a more better choice for this. I love Matthew Lillard, but he's perfect in this. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, he I saw an interview with him recently, and he was like, they were showing him his movies, and he had to comment on them. They showed him Hacker, and he's like, when I watched this, I had such a great time on this. It was just me learning and being. I tried to eat up the dialogue. Whatever scene I had, I tried to just eat it up. And, I just saw somebody who was just trying so hard. And now, he's like, I've learned now that, you can kind of pace yourself. But I mean, dude, this thing, when I first saw this movie, one of the first times anyways, as I watched it, I always got this sense of this seems like to me a movie that it was made by an English person or European, somebody that is finance or something that's financed by a overseas company, and this is their interpretation of what the U.S. is. Totally. Have you ever seen those movies?
Yes,
I've seen an Indian movie that was like that,
right?
And all the U.S. stuff was just so cliched and over, And I feel like that. It's like this English version of the USA. And, and when I did some research, I realized, the director is an English guy. And I mean, if you notice the cinematography in this movie, the movie looks okay, but if you notice the cinematography in this movie, it's just a bright light and there's no there's no evening out anything. It's just a bright, like that the scenes when they're tormenting Gil, and they're doing all the tricks. He's in the restaurant. You can see a big, huge. I mean, not see it, but you can tell there's just one huge light that's outside the restaurant, and it's just blown. And they're just turning it on, and you see all this darkness and shadows. And even when they're in Dade's room, when Eugene or the Plague is in Dade's room, trying to convince him to help him, you see all these shadows on the wall, and you could just tell there's a huge light, just boom. Yeah. And it's just in everything. Like there's a scene in the bathroom, and it's just so low budget. But that's part of the charm, I think that. Do you feel that European type of or English type of? I mean, because you see it in the same feel in Trainspotting, which is the next year. Okay, there's the same feel to that. I feel like. Do you see that or no? Am I just crazy?
It has I do. I was thinking it was more like a student film. It felt very. Look, you're right. We have one light and we got to use it, and it's as bright as it goes. Right.
Yeah.
This thing is just. You're right. It's a little off-putting. If you're going to watch it on your listen, if you watch it on your phone, you're not going to notice any of this stuff. So it's fine. But if you're watching it on your 65-inch and you got the YouTube app up and you just want to hit play on this, be prepared to be underwhelmed with the with the cinematography work. But the characters are fun and they're kind of funny. Fisher Stevens is funny when he doesn't mean to be. Yeah, and I know he's supposed to be this evil guy, but he comes across more like just a creepy weirdo than anything else.
My favorite is the FBI has a database with 20 million people in it. I just hacked into it.
Yeah, what 20 million, a whole million? Like that's it. There's 300 million of us. In hindsight, it's like all this work that these hackers are going through just to find out that a government agency was created in early 2025 that just did it all themselves somehow legally with a bunch of 19-year-olds that stole everybody's information overnight and just walked out of the building.
The hackers of today, where are you?
Yeah, where are you at, dude?
I still have my student debt. I still have debt. Wipe that shit out.
What's going on? What is the holdup? We're anonymous, if that is your real name. All right, so let's get into, we see the hacking. The big hack. There's a bunch of little hacks that take place. Dade is showing off for Kate. That's Angelina Jolie.
Kate Libby,
Kate Libby, who is Angelina Jolie. Her character. She is the badass of this group of hackers, this little group of hackers. Matthew Lillard's in there, and then Freak. I like Freak is a lot of fun. Freak played by Renly Santiago. Really a fun character. He's Dade's first friend that he meets along the way.
What's up?
Yeah, he's cool. We like Freak. He's a little dumb.
Everything he looks at.
He's a little dumb. He's a little slow, but he's a good guy. And he loves him some Dade. And then he's just in some of these hackers are talking about, I did this hack where I made this ATM in Idaho spit out $700, and they're all woohoo. And one
you
guy,
did that from your room?
You did that from your room? Are you crazy? That's over state lines. The FBI is going to track you. And they're kind of throwing out a lot of like, hey, there's if you guys do decide to do this, I know we're making it look so cool and all, but if you do this, you can get into a lot of trouble. So they do kind of throw out, if they didn't say that, they'd probably be like, hey, I don't know if this is promoting hacking. I don't know what our takeaway is. It's neither promoting hacking nor is it talking about how this isn't a good idea. The moral of the story at the end is like, so that's just things that happened.
Yeah.
There wasn't any kind of takeaway. It's just good dumb time, I think. It really is just like you said. You put it on. It's not gonna, you're not gonna walk away feeling, that Catholic guilt of I'm so. I remember those times that I was hacking, and you're right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
No, you're right, man. I think it's definitely something that, I think, like you said earlier, it's written. It seemed like it was written by somebody who just had no idea what hacking. This is his version of hacking.
It's like I wrote this.
Yeah, and the thing that they said was that they had to make it cinematic because hacking is just typing. Basically.
That makes
so.
That's
they had
where
to
you get all
introduce
that Chemical Brothers kind of soundtrack, and you got to give them something. That actually makes total sense.
And also the way that in the beginning, at least, they abandoned it probably in the first third of the movie, even the first maybe 10 minutes of the movie, where his reactions to certain things are these old movie clips, which I love. I love this. There was this TV show called Dream On that came on in the early 90s on HBO. Did you ever see that?
Loved Dream On, yes.
Yeah. So that was the whole premise of that movie, was that they took all these kind of movies that their copyright expired and they're in the domain. So they would take all these, or I don't know, because I think, anyways, so they would take all these old movies, and throughout the series, that would be his reaction. He would be like, they would cancel a meeting or something, and he would just be like, okay. And then they would cut to an old movie going, I will kill you, or whatever it was,
right.
And so there's a charm in that. And I feel like that it could have been, they could have, I feel like they could have kept going with that, but they just stopped it in the first 10 when his first day of school, basically. And then that's it. We don't see anything like that anymore.
Oh, you mean the hazing where she sends him up to the roof? There's an Olympic size swimming pool on the roof.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been to their first day of high school knows that trick. You hear that one? No, don't collect hall passes. From any of the seniors, they warn you about that kind of stuff but then he gets the sprinklers to go off now. Looks like the pool was leaking, and you're all, oh my guy got her.
And the Phantom Freak going, this is gonna be so good.
They're all very easily amused, right? These hackers, but they end up doing some pretty crazy technical.
What's up? That's his thing. He's like, "What's up?" And what's your interest in Kate Libby? What was it? Physical? Sexual? He's all homicidal. I think, yeah. But yeah, it goes to show that there's a lot of, what's the word? Naivete about the hacking culture in this movie that I think kind of fuels the scene of this, this steampunk, cyberpunk kind of movement that, then you have Johnny Mnemonic. And
total cyberpunk,
Tank Girl. Yeah, Tank Girl. And then obviously the Matrix kind of takes the...
Turk 182.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
So Joey, the other member of the group, you got Joey, who's played, I didn't catch, it's up
Jesse Bradford.
And then Matthew Lillard is Serial.
Yeah, serial killer.
Joey's at his apartment. He's back at his apartment, and he's on his computer. Lucy, he's named it, and he hacks into this big thing that Penn Jillette is working at, and all the things come light up. And he's downloading this thing called Garbage File, which is and the control room is that big ridiculous Matrix room.
Yeah,
and that's when Hal calls the plague down, and then we cut to meeting a special agent Dill. And he's being interviewed by somebody who's being arrested. You see somebody being arrested in the background. Yeah. And he says to the interviewer says, now, are we out of the woods of these things, these types of computer problems? And he says, hackers penetrate and cause viruses. So, hey, he said it. So the guys are, they're watching. Everybody else besides Joey is in the room, and they're all, well, hey, turn this news crap off. Let's turn on our favorite show. And they turn on the Hack the Planet show with Razor and Blade, baby.
Let me say something real quick.
Yes, go for it.
So there's a little out of sequence moment. So that interview where Gil says that.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. It's the really cool way they did this.
Yeah, and so you see they bring in someone down. And then they go through this sequence, and then maybe 5 scenes later, they arrest Joey, and that's the actual footage of them coming down and arresting him. That was such a weird thing.
That's why he's not in the room watching TV with them.
Right,
he's not there. He's getting, and you see Agent Dill saying, "Hackers penetrate and cause viruses." You see the full interview, so I'm like, it's a twofer on that one, everybody. Oh, it's good water.
Yeah.
So we meet Razor and Blade, and they're telling everybody, how to hack payphones, use the tones on the payphones. You never have to spend another quarter. And they're just like, this is great. They're watching it's like some bootleg internet show. I want to say it's cool, but it's got a huge following, and they are this Hack the Planet program.
It's like the precursor to a YouTube channel.
Totally.
I feel like,
that's exactly what it is. So we go on. What else happens? Let's see. It's just creeping down. They go to this big house party. And Kate is Kate's they find out that Kate is the hacker Acid Burn, and Dade's all, hey, you're Acid Burn, I'm Crash Override. We're like an hour into the movie, and they're
Matthew Lillard's all Crash and Burn.
Dude, Lillard's is so wide-eyed through this entire movie, and it makes sense where he's like, I'm just eating it all up. This is why he got the role of Shaggy, is how he could just stay at this 9 the entire time like this. He's just watchable. I don't know. Some people are, if you're annoyed by Matthew Lillard, don't watch this movie. But if you like Matthew Lillard and you haven't seen Hackers, watch it just for Matthew Lillard. He's just fun. He's just a big goofball.
We're pro Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, we
here.
are.
None of that Tarantino crap.
Yes. So he's. So they decide. Listen, we got to hack this Agent Dill. He's onto us. He's got Joey. First of all, we find out he's got Joey, and so they hack the hell out of, like you were saying, like they cancel his credit card on him. Yeah. They send him a bunch of transvestite 900 number charges to his office phone. He's going insane, and you show this montage of him going insane.
I will slap your ass.
I mean, it's crazy, right? They're basically trying to kill him. They're trying to get him to commit suicide or something. Then they actually do kill him.
Yeah,
on the computer, and meanwhile they're having this
payroll.
So Acid Burn and Crash Override are having a contest on who can hack him more times, and they decide it's a draw when Crash Override Dade actually goes in and kills off Agent Dill in the computer. Now he's like, "No, you're dead. You are a deceased person." So they call it a draw. Yeah, he's dead. They got him arrested at one point. They've got him cops have him over the top of the cop car. I'm like, this is the captain of the Secret Service. But okay, I mean, it's just crazy what they do to this poor guy, right?
That's part of the thing. There's a naivete. I don't know how to say that word, but to this movie that is, like you said before, like. It's written in a way that's kind of fantasizes about the powers of both sides, right? Yeah. So it's like they go and arrest certain parts of the people, some people in this kind of hackers gang, and they have their like guns drawn, and there's like 50. Without just the way they arrest everybody with the guns drawn, through
the windows. Yes.
Everybody has their guns drawn in this movie in terms of like the cops, and they have access to SWAT really easily. So it's like it's this kind of this fantasy that it's like this is how cops act, and it's like, but you roll with it because it's just. That was just the mood of the movie, I guess.
Right. I mean, this is why maybe people didn't go to see it in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They didn't. I mean, the idea of this is ridiculous, but it's totally watchable.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that I think as we were. Younger, there was a lot more movies out. There's a lot more stuff, and with a lot of stuff, there's a lot of stinkers. But there was all kinds of movies that you could kind of, I don't know, like in the '80s, there was like I said before, there was this dance thing. You had Footloose, you had Breakin', you had all this kind of dance movies that were coming out, and there's some stinkers in that genre. And this one, I think it survives. Just because of the earnestness of the performances, but also because this one kind of shot off a whole genre, which is the computer cyberpunk thing.
Right.
So, it may not be the best, but it's definitely, you have to give it its props for at least, the innovation of a genre, maybe,
Is this anything that inspired? You brought up, we brought up The Matrix many times. You have to think that this was at least a green light for the Wachowskis to go, listen, they made a hacker movie. It made no money. But what if we made one where our main star is a hacker, but we make it good? So they saw where this one fails, and then I actually gave it a religious kind of overtones with using all the different religions that are that appear in the Matrix movies. You've got Christianity to Krishna to everything Buddhism,
philosophy galore.
It's pulling from everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you're the Wachowskis, you see this in 1995 and go, I think the time for us to make our movie is now.
I mean, it was ripe for the picking. I think I think a lot of these types of movies were filmed and kind of created in a certain way, which is what this movie does. It sets a kind of a foundation to kind of shoot, the dystopian type of future or whatever landscape. But I think what the Matrix did was that it took all those elements and said, okay, we're going to film it in a different way. And they used a lot of, for the fight sequences, they used a lot of the Asian, was it Chinese? I can't remember which ones, but the ones that made all those movies in the 70s and 80s, they had those same crews come in and choreograph all this stuff. And they did it digitally, which a lot of this is in film, on film. So, I mean, you're able to kind of manipulate the digital image because you can kind of grade it in a certain color, which they did in the Matrix. A lot of greens, a lot of blues, a lot of, whatever, saturation, all that kind of stuff with the colors. So, I mean, I think these movies exist, like I said, they walked so the Matrix can just fly.
Right.
And I think the Matrix had a really good kind of tool bag to work from because, they kind of, like you said, they kind of looked and saw, okay, what didn't work and what can we make better? And I think the Wachowskis just kind of, they blew the roof off the place, with the Matrix. And
they added a zero to the budget.
Right.
Spent the money on and like you said, they got film crews that know how to. I mean, they were inventing that bullet cam,
bullet
time.
Yeah.
They had to come up with their own. I mean, nobody was coming up with new ideas.
And that
for
I feel like those were like Canon 7Ds that they used. I don't think at the time cameras were just DSLRs were the newest thing. Like I have my DSLR, and I have the 60, but I used a lot of the 7D in school. But it's like now mirrorless is the thing, and so Sony is taking off with these cameras. The Alexa, obviously the was the red, the red camera. I mean, they just kind of took off. But at this time, especially with the Matrix, I think they just used Canon 7Ds, which I have right here.
Oh, nice.
So. And they just used a lot of them. It's kind of like what Danny Boyle's doing with the 28 Years Later, where he used all the iPhones. And everybody's like, oh, that's cool. You can make movies. And you can make movies with your iPhone now. But, they have like the, $100,000 lenses on there. And they have all the rigging and all that kind of shit that they attach to that they don't tell you about. They just, the selling point is you can make a movie on your camera, and which you can. But to make one that's, passable in terms of theater. They all have the budget to, get all the good lenses. And
my 13 Pro Max isn't going to get that bullet time.
Well, actually, it probably could if you had enough. If you had enough of them, yeah.
Oh, if you had I see what you're saying. I mean, listen, you and Scott just had the conversation about Terminator versus T2, Judgment Day, and in T2. And it reminded me of like The Abyss. There's some shots in the movie The Abyss where you have that really kind of bubbly metal. This, the T-1000 in Terminator 2 has that kind of that's used in the Matrix as well, especially when he first like pushes the wall and then he goes into the Matrix. It's that same kind of effect. This is all done on film. This isn't right. This is what you're saying. It's done on film.
The Matrix was, I think, a digital. I think it
was digital too, and the Abyss would have to be.
The Abyss was on film.
The Abyss was okay.
Yeah, I think digital didn't really kind of take over until the late '90s. I want to say.
Right. And the Matrix is what, 99?
Yeah, 99. And I think that let's see. My train of thought just. Choo-choo.
So in this movie, we're a couple. If they wanted to spend a little bit of extra money, I mean, they made this movie for $20 million. Don't expect to be thrilled with. They're showing like, okay, so at one point what the hack does in this, just to get us, we're getting close to the finish line here. What the hack does is this hack as it turns out, that Fisher Stevens is the one who's supposed to find the hacker, and he is the hacker. Yeah. But he's trying to blackmail these hackers, our group of hackers, to try
take the fall.
To take the fall. He's trying to get them to go down. Now, why he's trying to hack this oil company, and you got to send $25 million into this account, or else I take over these shipping, these tankers out at sea.
Or you don't get your oil. Yeah.
I'm going to fill the ballast tank up so that it tips over. And the guy says, well, why can't the crew at the ship just take over? And they say, it's all done by computers now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. But
I think now it is, but back then.
Well, no, they have dead man switches where if you're not, if a human being isn't touching, it happens on trains and it happens on boats. Because after the Exxon Valdez, you can't have people just drunk asleep at the wheel. They have to tell you every certain amount of time on trains. I believe it's every 4 minutes that the engineer has to push a button to alert the train itself that I am still here. I'm still awake, because it would be so easy to just fall asleep. You're not steering. You're just looking out a window. And same with, that's why I was like, why are all these ship captains hammered, drunk all the time? Well, there's not a whole lot to do when you're going 30 knots. Imagine going 35 miles an hour all the way across the ocean. It takes a long time. But you got to be awake, because if you're not, so anyway. There's computers. I don't know that you can control the ballast tanks of a tanker from New York City underground hacking zone. Maybe you can. I don't know enough about. I'm not a merchant marine. I don't claim to be a merchant marine, Stephen. Okay, I don't know how it works. But you just kind of go, okay, wow, that's a crazy hack. That's a crazy thing to do.
Well, I think that's the fear that you see now as well, is that we were hearing this 10 years ago, which was AI is going to take over a lot of jobs, and it has. But I think that fear was instilled in us ever since computers were, or the personal computer was kind of involved in our day-to-day lives. Because now, or back then, the internet's in its infancy. And so you have, AOL, the CD that you had to put in and download a bunch of stuff, or I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, you had to upload 500 hours. You had to buy it by the minute.
Yeah,
you were buying your internet time by the minute, because it was a long distance call. Remember, this is all going.
So then you took
lines.
your phone line and you plugged it into your computer, and then when you you were done, you unplugged it and put it back in. Some people had 2 lines. Those are the rich people. They had 1 line in there all the time. But it was just the internet was in its infancy, and you could see a lot of that kind of in this movie, where there was a lot of unknowns. So they had to kind of create all this kind of stuff to make it visually appealing, when in actuality it was kind of a year or 2 away,
So then the chase is on. All right. Now we're getting to the nut cutting here, where now they realize that the freak is also arrested. He's arrested at home.
Yeah.
And they're like you said, they bust in. They've got guns in his face. His mom comes in, starts beating him with a shoe or something like that. And he's all, would you guys just hurry up and arrest me? Get me out of here, right? It's pretty funny. I thought that was like, if you don't get, my mom's going to kill me if you don't finish arresting me. The rest of the team, now they know that we're going to take the fall. We're running from the Secret Service, and we also have to show that we're not the ones doing it, that it's actually that Fisher Stevens guy. And so they go down to the subway, and they go to find a bank of payphones, and they get on all these phones, and now the hack is on. They're all on a different phone trying to do it. Everybody do a different thing, and we're gonna try to break this.
Well, if I help, I could do it in 6 minutes. Oh, looks like I'm gonna have to save all your asses. If I do it, I'll do it in 5. That kind of dialogue. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, they're all a lot of bravado, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. It's not very fun to watch people just going clickety clickety click on a keyboard. It's not. You can't eat popcorn to that.
Right.
So you gotta have
a lot of the specs for a lot of the computers on there too is just like, oh, I have 256 megabytes of and it's like, wow, my phone has more memory than that. And they're talking about speed, and they're talking about gigs, and they're talking about performance and accelerators and all this. And you're just like, yeah, that's just like,
it's incredible.
crazy.
I think this little flash drive of mine, I think is like a 30 gig. That's insane. It was unheard of back then. You're like, I have 258 megabytes worth of, what's your upload speed? And all, and they're trying to do it through nasty payphones in the subway. And they see, she says, she asks she calls up the Hack the Planet guys.
Yeah.
Kate's reading the newspaper clip, and and she's like, it says the Da Vinci virus, Ellington tankers, they blame hackers. They go back to the arcade. Hack the Planet crew is throwing a rave. There's a big rave going on, and it's just all the same people. It's all the Biff's kids. They have their hoverboards and whatnot, and they're wearing helmets. And they ask the Hack the Planet guys for help, and they tell them about the Da Vinci virus. And one of them says, "And here's where they all the two guys from the Hack the Planet. I forget their names now." It was like Mutt and Jeff, not Mutt and Jeff. But one of them makes the call to arms, hackers of the world unite. And so they get on the horn and drink for that. Oh, he said it. They get on the horn and they start calling all their friends. They got one guy who's sitting next to the Tower of London and he's sipping his coffee. You got some people that are they could be somewhere in Southeast Asia somewhere. They get all these people and they're all on. And so now they've got the hackers of the world are uniting to help our friends, acid burn and
zero cool crash over it.
Crash over.
But he's the original hacker. So he's memorialized. Like people idolize this.
That's
dude
right. From his hack in '88.
Right.
They've got him up on this pedestal still. Nobody's ever done anything like that before.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's a good point. And now it becomes like Gleaming the Cube, where they're instead of on skateboards, they're on rollerblades. They have that sick rollerblade chase.
Gleaming the Cube, I love it.
Gleaming the Cube, it's the Gleaming the Cube moment, and the music is.
That's on YouTube too for free.
Is it?
I think so.
Hell yeah, Christian Slater. Love
Tony
Gleaming
Hawk
the Cube. Oh my god, that's another good and terrible. Serial at one point this has to be. They're all about to, okay, now ready? Everybody go. I'll do it in 3 minutes. You do it in 2 minutes. And Serial goes, ah! And everyone looks at him and he goes, tension breaker had to be done.
Oh, yeah.
It's from Summer School, dude. It's got to be from Chainsaw's character in Summer School.
We have to do that movie because I love that movie
great.
too.
Yes. So, Mark Harmon and the whole crew, my God.
Kirstie Alley. Yeah.
Kirstie Alley. Loved me some Summer School, the 1998 classic Summer School.
1988?
I think it was 89, 88 or 89.
Oh, that's right. I heard 98.
I saw it in the theater.
Right.
When I saw previews for that, I said, definitely going to see that. I don't care how many lawns I have to mow. I'm seeing that. Because I went to, did you ever go to summer school? Just quick
once.
tangent. Well, yeah, I went twice. I went after 8th grade and I went after senior year. And believe me, summer school sucks. And so I was all about it, dude. I was all about, I need to go see this movie. So I understand the whole There's a lot of rollerblading in that one too, or maybe he's roller skating. Anyway,
No, he's rollerblading. Or,
Is he?
Yeah, no, he's skating. He's skating.
Yeah,
Roller
because it was the
skating.
'80s. They hadn't come out with those
Yeah.
inline skates yet. Where are we at here?
Oh, at the end, they get all the hackers get arrested, but then you were saying the Hack the Planet people,
Yes,
Razor and Blade,
Razor
all their
and
buddies, and or whatever their
again,
name was.
how much thought was put into
Yeah.
this, right?
Razor and Blade, and they hack. Whoops, they hack. They hacked the TV waves and sent out this message that explains the plot of the movie, which is that Eugene Belford, a.k.a. the Plague, wrote this worm.
The Da Vinci virus.
Well, he makes a virus, but he makes a virus as cover for this worm that's really siphoning all this money into another account.
Oh, that's right.
And then that's why when they get the garbage file, they see that, oh, these people, these are the hackers that installed this virus, which is, just causing the ships to, turn over or whatever it was, as cover. So they would be blamed. And then he can get away with his $25 million, which he doesn't. So
No, he does not.
yeah. So
And Lorraine Bracco
yeah.
is arrested. He disappears. And
He gets arrested on the plane.
He shows
Yeah.
up. Now he's on a plane somewhere, and it's this disguise where he looks like an old man. And out of nowhere, Agent Dill, mid-flight, Dill, Agent Dill. Well, it's Dick Gill, so I want to just mash it into one word for some reason. By the way, Dick Gill. Again, it seems like this is a student movie where they're all, should we change any of this? What do you mean? It's already all written down. I mean, why not? They're like,
We're on the last
these are
day of
names
shooting.
you're
What are you
going
talking
with,
about?
Oh no!
Oh man!
So the world now knows that it wasn't these hackers, but Dade is out. He's doing the hack the planet, and everybody. Now the people of the world are behind these hackers. Like, hey man, they were being framed the whole time. Didn't change the fact that they're still hackers.
Right.
So that kind of like
Plausible.
Serial starts a channel. Now he's now the face of this hacking community, right? Here's Serial. He's like, "Hello, everybody. My name is Bo. I'm Serial Killer. This virus was going to be blamed on innocent hackers." And Margot and Eugene, they were the people behind it. Since they hadn't finished their bet, it shows you the payoff of the bet. Now, the bet between Dade and Kate, where the winner of the bet, they go on it's basically it's a bet to go on a date.
Yeah.
And the loser of the bet has to wear a dress. So it's higher stakes for Dade because a guy wearing a dress. So it shows that now two of them are walking off. The final cut of the whole movie, and she's wearing a dress. So Dade had won the bet, and they finally kiss. And then he's got one more hack for her, and they're on a rooftop pool, like she said they were at some point. And he says, look out there, and across the way on the Fight Club's cityscape, instead of all the buildings crashing down, it says. Crash and burn across the lights that are flashing. Aww. That's so sweet. And friends whomst I'm going to see, if you're concerned about being hacked and you don't want to be hacked, may I suggest Stegar VPN. Stegar VPN is available to all our Patreons. And by the way, Patreon's going really fast. We have a limited amount of Patreons. Let me show you where we're at on Patreons. I think there's just a little bit, there's just a little tiny bit left of the Patreon. So if you order today, go to the Stegar.
I have this whole thing, dude. I have this course that I just did. And if you're sick and tired of being scammed and ripped off online, I have this course of how to avoid being scammed and ripped off online. You send $5 to me.
I should write this down. Send it to you. You say?
Yeah. It's a 2-page. It's a quick read. You know?
Good. Yeah, it's a pamphlet. We like to send out a mailer. Do you have a? I know it's going to be tough to pick one, but do you have a Klay Thompson Award winner for this movie?
You know, I didn't pick one knowing that there was a lot to pick from.
Sure.
So I wanted to do it on the moment.
Yeah.
But
how are you feeling right now?
like,
How is the mood striking you now?
Well, I feel like Jackson Brown's son is in this movie. And, I was going to pick serial killer, or Joey or any one of the crew, but I decided to pick Angelina Jolie's boyfriend at the beginning of the film, which is Jackson Brown's son.
Oh.
Which tragically has passed away, I think, in the last year or two from an overdose, which RIP meant. It's not a good thing. But I think I will pick him because he's just, hey, Kate, don't tell me you're going to get into this computer stuff now. And she's like, I'll just 1 minute. And he just goes like, what does he call them? The Decepticons. Great. Or whatever he calls the crew.
I don't remember.
He's too cool for school. He's up on the thing when he's like, Kate, is he in your way? When they're playing the video game.
Right.
So I'm going to pick him. I forget. I don't know his name. They say his name, but I forget what his name is. But he's just the typical, I think, just one note kind of actor. You could tell he's not an actor. So I don't know. I just picked him just for funsies.
Is he also a musician in real? Was he a musician in the real life?
I don't know. I don't know what he did. I think he just hung out, like he said, Curtis. That's his name. That's right. Curtis. What's he do? Well, you're looking at it. Just being cool.
He's just being cool.
And I think that's pretty much what he did in real life. But go ahead.
I'm going to go with Renly Santiago as Freak. I really enjoyed Freak. I liked that character a lot. You're really rooting for him. I was rooting for him.
Yeah.
I know that he's probably got he's, like I said at the beginning, he's a little slow, but I think his heart's in the right place. He accepts Dade from first day. Looks over his shoulder and he sees Dade changing his classes so that he can be in Kate's classes. And he's like,
the ultimate reaction.
Blown away by this. Yeah. Like you can hear his mouth agape.
Yeah.
So he was great. I enjoyed his flamboyance in the movie as well. I thought it just added, I don't know, some truth to it because there's kind of, there's
some
this is not there's this group that none of them really have a whole. The one thing they have in common is they all like hacking.
Yeah.
Other than that, they're all look like they run different circles, but they're like kind of Breakfast Clubby once they all come together.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's just fun to watch them, especially when they're all like comparing war stories about what they've done and what hacks they've done. And but this book, that's the big red book. And like, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, what is all this? Is this all computer? It's like one of them does IBM and one does, I mean, it is crazy how much different code you need to know.
Well, there's a scene that I wanted to point out before we finish up here. Yeah. It's like there's a scene where they go to Nikon, what's his name, Lord Nikon apartment.
Yes,
and the freak Dade is like to the freak. He's like, "Hey, do you know who Acid Burn is?" And he's like, "No, never heard of it." And you can see serial killer who's standing to the side of them going. Because they know who Acid Burn is.
Sure.
They're just not telling him. That's how they get around, I feel like, that little plot point of like, well, if they knew Kate Libby and they knew Acid Burn, and at the beginning when he asked, hey, do you know who Acid Burn is? They're like, I don't know why they just didn't say, yeah, it's Kate. But it's the payoff, that it's just a weird scene.
And you knew, too, that the first hack he does after he turns 18, he's stopped by this Acid Burn person. Yeah. He's in Seattle. Acid Burn's somewhere in the world.
He's in New York. He's in New York.
Not when he first turns 18. He's in Seattle. Then they leave and they go to New York. They fly to New York. She's like, I'm really sorry that I have to take in the job. Yeah, because his parents are split up.
Well, I thought that
she's like, I'm really sorry.
I thought he stayed up all night to hack that the infomercial and he put on the Outer Limits. that's in Seattle.
I think that's in Seattle, and then it shows them flying to New York fairly quickly. Again,
I think
this is a movie. You could be right. I haven't seen the first 20 minutes as many times as I've seen the last hour of it, by a factor of probably 4.
Yeah.
So you could be right, but the idea that his first day at school, he meets the person who he's obsessed with.
Yeah,
is kind of, you're like, all right. I mean, we'll
that's convenient.
We'll suspend reality to get this plot moving. It could be 3 hours
just to get
long.
the movie rolling.
You're right. Let's move it forward here. Other than that, listen, I had a lot of fun. I'm glad because I love wearing this shirt, and I've worn it for a couple other. I was looking through our Instagram reels and stuff, and I'm like, I have worn this shirt. It's, a couple years ago, I get to wear it and do the movie, so it's not often I get to do that. I don't have a lot of movie T-shirts, but when I do and we do that movie, I try to make sure that I don't go through the T-shirt wardrobe that and go, oh man, I didn't realize I had a Stand By Me shirt. I just don't. I don't. So, but this was so anyway. From all of us here, any final thoughts on this?
It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. Again, it's kind of like it's like listening to an album, and it has some songs that I wouldn't say are filler, but they're kind of like, I'm not there yet. Because, and it's a rarity that you listen to a whole album and you love every song on it. There's a few that are like, you don't hate them, but you're just like, okay, I'll get around to that later. This is kind of one of those movies for me where it kind of grew. I mean, I have a feeling that when I first saw it, I was like, this is kind of cheesy. It was in the same kind of era as Empire Records, which I had the same reaction to, which is this is kind of cheesy. But as time goes on and you see it on cable, or you see it on TNT, or you see wherever you see it, it starts to grow on you because it's just simple. It's the bare bones of a movie. Throw a light up in the corner. All right, let's film the scene. Kind of feel to it, but it's entertaining, and it's got some really over the top performances from people that weren't really stars. This is like the beginning of their career. So I think it's a great movie. I highly recommend watching it. And give us your take on it, because is this one of those movies for you guys as well, the audience, or is it something that you just thumb your nose up and just say, this is garbage? Let us know. I want to hear your thoughts.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it from us here at Gonna See My Friends. Thank you for joining us yet again. It's go out there, have a lovely day. Go out and hack the planet. And until next time, Stephen, lovely to see your smiling face. Go Giants, sir.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Pick a cheer.